Hello and welcome to another episode of Seddon and Laceys Comic Stash. And I have to say, before we go too far in, the reason there was no stash last week is I was hobnobbing with Norfolk royalty as I was out drinking with Sir Stephen Fry and Lady Delia Smith at the launch of the new Norwich pub at the football ground.
One of those is someone to admire and a great person, and the other one's Dealer Smith.
But yes, that's why there was no show last week
And
for
by
the
that same
stash.
token, don't take it all on your own shoulders as well, because I was at a retirement do for someone that I've worked with for many years now. Those who know me well or have watched other episodes know that my memory is terrible, and I'll be honest, I'd forgotten all about it until about 20 minutes before I went to it. So it was a bit of a chaotic. Someone said, "What time we leaving to go to this retirement do?" And I went, "Now."
So yes, that is why there was no show last week. But we are doing what we were going to do, which is the first part of our Secret Invasion breakdown.
I kind of
Um,
made it a bit green in the background to kind of go secret-y,
oh.
scrolly, invasion-y.
So we'll be doing this in two parts. This week's is the first three episodes because that's all I've watched, and then next week we will do the back three episodes because I'll have watched them by next week.
And with that in mind, I'm going to be as extra specially careful because I have seen all six of them. So if at a certain points I go silent or I'm a little bit reticent, it's because my brain's probably going, "Did that happen in the first three episodes or didn't it?" But yeah, I have seen the whole kit and caboodle. So yes, we will come back and finish it off next week.
Yes, and when we've also done the next week's part is where you, Mr. Seddon, can divulge us with the comic joy to where it changes and where it differs.
Yeah. And for anyone who's watching this who has already seen it, they will very much know already and read the comic how much it diverts. But yes, we'll get into that next week.
Next week. But before that, I hear a jingle coming, and I feel a
It,
corner I need to go to.
does it is it a corner that's related to a bus, a Venga bus?
It is a Venga Bus corner.
Yeah, let's go. Now we've been on a corner of a bus. What you been up to? What
See,
you been doing?
I have had a pretty slow week this week. Only the one thing pretty much most of the way through a run from 1975,
Did you?
the first year of the Joker spin off, where Joker got his own little 10 issue run. Um, really fun, silly escapades of Joker being obviously the main character in there. You see him plotting and making these plans, and then how they fail. And because it's Joker solo, Batman's not to be seen. We've had him interact with the Royal Flush Gang.
Ooh, big
The
fan, by the way, the
Weeper,
Royal Flash Gang. Love it.
yeah,
Love the Royal Flash
uh,
Gang.
Willie the Weeper, um, Flash, and Black Canary have been there as well. So yeah, it's quite fun to see 70s style Joker interacting with other people that aren't Batman. Um, I said it is it's very light-hearted. It is that point where Joker is still the clown prince, and it's
Well, I was
all
going to say, like,
hand
how,
buzzards and
yeah,
acid flowers and
is it
that
the
sort
kind
of
of more camp fun
yeah.
Joker? Because I mean,
It's
obviously, it's
the silly
before that,
Joker.
yeah, before the gritty times. But I mean, I guess it still wouldn't stop it being. I don't know. I guess it's in that transition, isn't it, between Batman 66 esque kind of theory and Killing Joke, and I guess
Yeah,
part of it is what does happen in between those two things.
yeah. It is still very camp and silly and zany. It's all no one really gets hurt. They might get biffed and knocked out to be arrested or
Beautiful
things like that,
term.
but
They might get biffed.
no one's dying.
I want to
But
get
yeah,
biffed now.
but yeah, I just felt I wanted something old, but I wanted something that I could jump in and out of.
How
So if I
many
just wanted to read like
issues?
a couple of, there are 10 in total, and I'm up to 7. So I've still got a
And
couple more to do, but
do you know if it was due to be 10? Like, was it an ongoing, or is it a 10 issue
from
limited series? Or
what I can see, it was just a 10 issue run. That it was always going to just be a little
cool.
amuse bouche sort of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah. It'll look into the world of the villain for a little while.
Yeah, because I think looking at where Batman was at the time, Joker wasn't in any of the Batman stuff for a little bit before this and a little bit after this. So I think it's just a let's do something with the Joker that
Yeah,
isn't in the Batman stuff because at this point, just sort of looking at where they were, a lot of Penguin stuff and a lot of Catwoman stuff at that point. So I think it was just a
well,
keep him
I
in the mind.
I know that's almost a sort of a decade removed from the Batman TV show, or certainly the Batman TV show coming on. But I'm guessing for DC, it must have been a very tempting thing as well to every now and again, if you're not having them be part of the Batman run, is to market some comic books on the shelf to characters that maybe the non-comic book reading world would see and go, "Oh, I remember that dude from TV." So yeah,
Yeah,
it's probably quite a smart marketing tool at that point.
and I probably would have guessed that Batman 66 is still doing the runs on TV at that point as well,
Yeah, yeah,
still
yeah.
being syndicated.
Well, I mean, it still was
Um,
when we were bloody growing up, mate. So,
yeah,
like,
yeah,
yeah, I don't think there was avoiding
but
that for a good 30 years afterwards.
but yeah, I think it's just one of those of they had nothing to do with him in the main one. It's an easy 10 weeks of issues. There you go, sort
Yeah.
of thing. So, what have you been up to in your corner?
Well, I was trying to remember. I think I put this on one of our solicits videos. If not, I'm pretty sure I mentioned it at some point. But it's a series called Sins of the Salton Sea. Now, I say a series, it's only 2 issues are available so far. So I've only read issue 1 and 2. So I am uber modern here, which is so unlike us or this. But
Is this
it
the
was a
X
pure
Men one?
no, it was a pure happenstance. I was actually, and to give a plug to another comic book podcast out there that also has a YouTube show, The Captioned Life, and they were interviewing Ed Brisson, and they were talking to him about his current run on Batman Incorporated. And I was listening to it, and very engaging fella. Like, I've not read Batman Incorporated, however, I was quite compelled to. And then like the question was kind of thrown of what else have you got coming up, and he sort of said, oh, he had an indie creator owned series coming up from AWA Studios. Now I don't think I've ever read anything by AWA Studios before, but when he was talking about it, it just sounded quite compelling to me. He said like it's about a crime caper, and it's a particular sort of story that kind of interests him. And he was talking about the Salton Sea area in America and how I think he'd kind of grown up there, or grew up around there, and was interested in telling this sort of tale. But then he kind of hinted that, and then at the end of issue 1, something dramatic happens and the story quite changes. So it really piqued my
Mm.
interest, and I was really keen to have it come out. So as I say, I think when it was in the solicits, I think I did put it in. But so yeah, I've been quite keen to have it come out. Now I got issue 1 digitally when it come out, and weirdly enough, kind of as excited as I was, forgot that I got issue 1. It was only when issue 2 dropped that I went, oh god, I haven't read issue 1. So I read them this week, and I really enjoyed it. And it's going to run for 5 issues, so I don't think I'll talk about it again until we get to the 5th issue. But it's right up my alley. And when they say about like a caper story, it is not kind of your Joker capers from the 70s. It's very much
Yeah,
a modern crime story. the main character called Wyatt, you see him and he's kind of living in I say squalor, but living from job to job. You know, he's got quite heavily bearded and loads of sort of tropey stuff of he's a loner on his own, and then a guy turns up, and you find out very, very quickly afterwards that the guy is his brother, and they had been kind of career criminals together, and his
Mm.
brother wants to do one last job. And they've been told about this one, so very, very tropey. The one last job, and
Yeah.
this one last job is uh, I would say armored car, but effectively it's an armored car sort of convoy thing where there'll be 5 million in $5 million in the back of this truck, and they he needs his brother to come back in for this one last job. It'll be the retirement one. There's it's hinted at the brother went away and stopped doing crime because something happened, and we don't know what the
Mm.
something is yet. But there's a reason why he was going from town to town because something bad happened along the way, and you meet the crew, and then they go and do the job, and I guess, but still in the world of tropiness, there's more protection to this van than they thought there would,
Expect.
and
Yeah.
yeah, and then there's some casualties along the way, but they actually do rob the van, and when they open up the back of the van, it isn't money in there. It's a woman and a kid, and when I say a kid, like I estimate sort of 16, 17 year old, something like that. And that kind of brings us to like the end of issue one, this kind of dun 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 moment, and then in issue two, it's very much Wyatt has now got this wife and sorry, this wife, this lady and her son, and it's a bit like, well, what do we do from here? And she says that she is on the run from her husband, or now she is on the run from her husband, but her husband had effectively kidnapped her, and he is a CEO of a corporation, has some links to some religious groups, and then you start to get sprinkled in the story. You meet him in it, and I won't
Yeah.
go any further in what it does because there is another revelation and a very interesting, good, and well delivered revelation at the end of um, issue two as well. But it doesn't shy away from any of the characters being able to die pretty quickly because there's a few unexpected casualties along the way. But for as tropey as it is, it's one of those times where those tropes are delivered so well and I enjoy them so much that I go, yes, using them
Mm.
allows the rest of the story to grow and breathe and me to get interested in the characters around it. But yeah, I really heartily recommend it. I don't read enough crime comics because I think they are often few and far between, and sometimes come out so far under the radar that you wouldn't potentially see them. But yeah, this is right up my alley, and I can't wait to get to the end of it.
Ooh. Sounds intriguing. Think
Yeah,
that'll be
beautiful
a
art as well, by CP Smith, who does the art on it, and a very whilst realistic, also comic booky art style. But yeah, I think depending on where it goes in the third, the fourth, and the fifth, I think it's one that I'll be heartily recommending to you from what I've read in issues one and two so far.
yeah. So we'll see if it sticks the landing, and it might be a
Yeah,
grab
yeah. Oh
grab
well,
the trade.
like every story in life, sticking the landing is a really key part. But I think on these sorts of ones, even more so, isn't it?
Yeah.
You need that payoff for a crime story and the other sort of story that it probably is going to become. But yeah, there's nothing so far that doesn't make me think that this is going to be really, really good and something that you'd really, really enjoy. And all
Hmm.
you out there, if you like crime, you like comics, get it,
Get it
get
in
it,
you.
get her.
So, shall we start an invasion and do
Yeah, I
so in the
can't.
secret?
It's been a while since we've talked any Marvel TV shows, isn't it? I know you've
Yes.
been off the wagon. On the wagon is probably
Yes.
the proper term for that. But
Yeah.
you haven't been. I don't think you watched She-Hulk, Miss
Uh,
Marvel,
I,
or Moon Knight,
I no. I last thing I watched was Hawkeye,
and it
and
broke you.
even in the films, other than Guardians. I'm
which is
even
the one
behind
film I
in.
haven't seen.
I am behind on there as well because I will admit I was a bit MCU'd out, um, but we did decide that as this is, yes, it's MCU, but it's not super connected to where to be up to date in the films and everything else. And you said that you were enjoying it. That I was like, right, let's do a show on it. So I have.
I just want to clarify for a spoiler. At no point did I say I was enjoying it.
Pretty sure you said that it was all right.
Well, I'm pretty sure, mate. When we go through this, you're going to realise I didn't say I was enjoying it. I mean, for me, like one of the attraction points for me of this show was the link to the comic book. So obviously, all of the Marvel TV shows are very much based off of characters that have come from comics, and a lot of the time, again, as much as neither of us were particularly fans of the Hawkeye TV show, certainly throughout it, we could talk about the DNA of certain stories that it lent off of. But for a lot of the TV shows, it has been a character based thing, hasn't it? And they're
Yeah,
picking bits from like the history of the characters, whereas this was a bit of a there is a comic called Secret Invasion. So I guess you're kind of coming into this going, oh, is this the Secret Invasion story? But in the same way as when we talked about Captain America Civil War, and it doesn't follow beat by beat what the Civil War comic does, because the Civil War comic can rely on 50 years worth of publication to get you to that point. Like they're
yeah,
playing in a smaller pool. I think very much the same here. But yeah, I think this is why this one kind of stood out for me as maybe something for us to come back to um, is it going to be important in the wider story, and because it's based off of a what was an event comic and quite a popular event comic.
yes. So we will start at the beginning in episode one.
I almost said
And
issue one then, when I can't remember what we were doing, but I think it was probably this another one where we were talking about a comic and I kept calling everything episodes, and now we're doing a TV show. I've learned to use the word issue again. Sorry.
so we open up and we are in Mother Russia in Moscow as Talius is chasing Everett Ross. Um,
Yes. Straight
after
away, kind of those Marvel universe feels, isn't it? Like we've got tell us
yeah,
who. I'm pretty sure the last time we saw him was Captain Marvel, and of course Everett Ross is more linked to Black Panther. So you are kind of going, ooh, we're going
yeah,
slap bang into the middle of Marvel world here.
because a CIA agent has been murdered.
Espionage.
Turns and I was like, ooh, espionage style. We like this. Turns out that the CIA agent was actually a Skrull rebel. Um, we find out that
Hence the green in the background.
yes,
Synergy.
we find out that Talios and Fury's plan to find them a new planet has never happened, as it
Yeah,
was meant to.
I'm not massively sure on the timing here. I think I guess Marvel University time is a bit different, but like I take it as this is kind of happening in 2023 ish, maybe up to 2025, but effectively that Fury's plan to relocate the scrolls, which comes back to Captain Marvel, uh, hasn't happened, and I took it as there's quite a chunk of time, isn't there? There
Yeah,
is quite a I think even in comic book time, I think you're looking at 30 plus years that this hasn't been delivered on. Maybe a bit
yeah,
less, but a lot of years.
yes. We see Maria Hill turn up and help Ross get away, and she calls into space to get the returning Nick Fury, who Samuel Jackson are looking very dishevelled old man with his
Yeah,
grey beard.
he worked on that beard, didn't he?
He did. Um, Fury hasn't been seen since the snap. Um, learns of Talios has been put my teeth in, exiled from the Scroll Council and has been replaced by Grabax, who is the leader of the rebels.
Yes.
Fury finds himself wandering the streets of Moscow only to be kidnapped by MI6's finest to see his old acquaintance, Sonia Falsworth, who basically tells him that she isn't going to help him. He's been terrible for not being around, and that he can't have the good booze.
Yeah. So
During
I
this,
think like we said like with Everett Ross, as you mentioned, Maria Hill being in this, and Fury, it did have a large degree, and as you say, like the mention of the snap and things like that, and you see Saber, the space station, which I think is shown in Far From Home. I think is the other time it's shown.
mm,
So this really is touching a lot of parts of the Marvel universe, which I know a lot of their projects do. But for example, Moon Knight, other than being Easter eggy, and sorry, spoilers if you haven't watched it, it doesn't that doesn't bleed so much into the rest of the world. Like it's not. This feels a lot more integrated at this point. Like
mm.
it's almost going. We're playing with those a lot of those toys you kind of know. So I think it does a lot to kind of establish that at this stage.
Yeah, we find that Fury is still a sly old dog as he bugs Sonia's room and finds out about that the Skrulls are planning a dirty bomb.
Dirty
Uh,
bomb.
dirty bomb indeed.
By the
Talos
way,
is
for non UK watchers, the next thing won't make any sense. But every time, and it's not specifically you, but every time in the case of this that you are saying Sonia, my mind always flashes to Sonia from EastEnders rather than Sonia in this show. It's so indelible in my English knowledge base that the only Sonia on the planet. Oh no, actually, the
Sonya
other
Blaze.
Sonia is well. No, I was thinking Sonia, the ginger-haired pop princess from the early 90s. But yeah. So
80s.
if it was 80s, blimey, if I flicker every time you say Sonia, it's because I'm going Sonia from EastEnders every single time.
We see that Talios's daughter Gaia is with the rebels. Um,
And she's the mother
they
of dragons.
she is, and also Han Solo's bit on the side.
Oh yeah, I forgot she was in that.
Yeah. We find out that the rebels are planning an attack on Unity Day in the main square of the part of Moscow that they're in. Fury Hill and Talios try to intercept this as Gaia has put some
Fed them some
neon paint
information, hasn't she? Yeah.
on the bag so they can help. And it turns out chaos ensues, bombs go a boom, and Hill gets killed as we go off for episode one.
There was a lot of
But this,
bombsy boomsies. You're right, weren't you? Like they
yes,
obviously had a bit of a special effects budget for this episode at the very least. And I didn't mind the boom booms. I thought they did that bit quite well.
yes. So by this first episode, I was very much intrigued in what we're getting. I was like, oh, are we getting more um, Winter Soldier style Marvel espionage? And
I think that's the vibe they're going for, isn't it? Like, and I guess we can get to like kind of whether we feel like they achieve it, but certainly what we said earlier, espionage. I think when this was being conceived or when they were putting this together, I feel like that's what they wanted it to be. They wanted it to feel a bit more like a born identity right the way back to kind of the great like spy espionage movies of the 70s of going, here are some people you know, here are some things you know. Forget the alien bit for a second. Like
yeah,
they are aliens, but ultimately this could be any seditious group that has an agenda, and your good guys have kind of found that there is an agenda, but they don't necessarily yet. It's not like send the army in, boys. It's like you need to take care of this because it's kind of happening live. So yeah, I do feel like that's what they're trying to hit with this.
Yeah. So, where were you after the first episode? Were you at the point of, "Ooh, this could be good," or was this a, "We've seen it all before," or?
I've got to confess, it took me 3 attempts to get through episode one. Now, the first one though. To be fair, I think I was just distracted. You know, sometimes when you put something on the telly and I don't know, you're looking at something on the internet. I don't know what I was doing. I think I was messing around, and I think about half an hour had gone by, and I kind of looked up and went, I haven't watched any of this. So I stopped it and thought, no, don't be daft. Watch it again tomorrow. I watched it again the next day, and I was not. I didn't have any distractions, but I still felt myself being very distracted.
Mm,
So I thought I'd give it a third go to kind of go, is it just me? Am I not in the right frame of mind? And on the third go, my feelings, I think this. I think I should like this from this first episode because you know how much I love Winter Soldier. As far as I'm concerned, it's the best Marvel movie, and I love espionage things. Um, and there were certainly elements, as I say, I think that the way they do parts of that final scene, I think that's set up quite well. I think the start of it. I think that kind of dropping you straight into the chase, not really knowing what's going on, but seeing some familiar characters. Um, I should like it, but other than Olivia Colman, as she will be known, and not Sonia, other than Olivia Colman, who I think is fantastic in the role of Sonia, and we'll probably cover that more when we go through other episodes. I'll be honest, most of the middle of it, I was just bored. I was just like, I understand what you are doing, and I understand some of these concepts because not only have I read about them in the comics, but you have introduced them in Captain Marvel. But I found myself not caring about anyone pretty much instantaneously. I didn't care that the scrolls were um, potentially going to do a bad thing because they kind of maybe have a bit of a valid point
yeah.
that Fury was going to do this, but I wasn't. I would neither was I on their side, and uh, I think I was supposed to care more about Fury's reintroduction after the snap. I'd forgotten about Fury, and I didn't really care that when he got snapped away. And I cared not for really finding out. But that's probably more my feelings about Fury and Samuel L. Jackson in general. Like in most roles these days, he phones everything in as far as I'm concerned. But I just was. It wasn't pulling me in because it gave me little or no reason to. I thought the threat or the peril was thin, and
Mm,
I know these things build out. So like there was still a part of me that went, "Well, give it a go," because this is maybe just your first taster and morsel. But yeah, I just found it very very bland, and just didn't do anything to make me want to know what happened next.
mm. So I like the first 5-10 minutes where you've got the beginning bit with um, Carlos and um, Jonah and stuff, and I was like, "Ooh, are we getting like deep spy shit here?" And I was like, "Ooh, I like this." And then yeah, it hits a lull in the middle, and then it's like, "Ooh, boom booms" to sort of pull you back in a bit.
Yeah,
And I was like, "Okay, so we know that no one's safe because Hill's dead."
yeah. I felt like that was
Cool.
a mistake, by the way. I feel like, and I know it's one of the big selling points, isn't it? Of going, here
Yeah.
is a character that has been others played by someone famous. Anything can happen in this series, but again, like too much of a gap between her having any significance in the Marvel universe. Yeah, very much hasn't been featured for a very long time, and it sounds a bit harsh, but I kind of forgotten, and in other projects I hadn't missed that character, so why
Mm.
would I care when they come back and this bad thing happened to them?
Yeah.
Talos was good though. I like Talos in
Yes.
Captain Marvel. Um, the as I say, Olivia Colman, fantastic. Talos at this point was the one kind of spark that I had where I went, this could be the really interesting character here. Aligned with Fury and has been for a while, and I think believes that Fury's intentions are good and the intentions to help out the Skrulls are there, but still had been let down for a long period. Forget the period of the snap, no one could do
Yeah,
anything that time, but um, and I think at this stage I am kind of going. That's the bit that I'm hanging on to here. Of does he align with his species? Does he stay with that? What is right? What's wrong? And I felt like he would be the interesting moral compass for the show.
yeah. I mean, at this point though, the one thing that doesn't help is I have no reason to either like or hate Gravax
Oh yeah,
because there's no depth to him at this point other than he had some dirty bombs.
I'm glad you said it because that was really worrying for me. I felt like he was supposed to be more interesting than he was. I felt like he was, where I talk about Talos being ultimately the kind of moral compass, the where you'll lean. I think he was probably supposed to be portrayed as almost kind of a not a good guy. I think he's supposed to be portrayed as a bad guy, but um, with a potentially noble and righteous cause. And
Hmm.
I just felt like I was watching Cardboard go through some
Yeah,
steps.
he he comes across as middle management.
Yeah.
That's the thing. He does.
Oh,
He's not. He doesn't come across as a big bad in the way like a Red Skull does, or Thanos did, or even like Loki or Killmonger.
yeah.
He just seems like a mid-level, mid-game boss. He doesn't.
I, th- I,
At this point he doesn't have that you know aura or personality or even like just that je ne sais quoi to sort of be like, oh, I hate you, or oh, I can see why you're doing this because I
yeah.
see what your meaning and reason is. And I think that was the thing that does struggle with this first one is he, as you say, he's a bit cardboard.
I think for me, I think I'll kind of park him there, and as we go through 2 and 3, I'll probably pick up on him because my feelings do change towards him. And I kind of don't want to jump ahead on that, but I just wanted to go like when I said Cardboard, I really do genuinely mean he comes across like so bland for me. However, my God, Amelia Clark and Gaia manages to bore him off the screen. It is I, every time she's on it, and I really liked her in Game of Thrones. I thought obviously a very central character to it, but I think the way she portrayed the character was very very good. So like this isn't I can't stand her, but because I don't necessarily think this is her. I think this is the way that character is initially brought in, and spoilers, the way that character continues for me is. I mean, it's like I found myself feeling like I was watching paint dry, or certainly that I'd have a more interesting time watching paint dry than seeing the scenes that she was in. And I go back to what I was saying earlier about Sins at the Salton Sea, about sometimes you're very, very happy to see tropes and things that have been done before because they can get you a fast track to
Mm.
actually getting into the character and doing that. Absolutely everything about this character, certainly at introduction, is so so paint by numbers, and I don't know. I couldn't. I found myself almost wanting to switch off in scenes with both her and Gravik. So not a good start for me for a TV show.
Yes. So we go into the second episode and we have a flashback to 1997 and Brixton
A very good
as
year.
we see. as we see Fury recruiting Skrull refugees, and we see Child Gravax, who's there and being told about, we'll get you a new planet, or it will get you a new home, and everything will be great, and it won't take long, and everything will be fine.
It's quite a rousing speech in a really weird warehouse, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. It was not to kind of go in on it straight away, but I felt like the framing and the design of the scene and where they filmed it. And I know like the idea is that they're underground, but I don't know. It felt really weird to me. It felt like it was happening in a community centre that you didn't want to be in.
yeah. Back into modern day, and Talius tells Fury that there are millions of scrolls living,
Millions of the buggers. They're everywhere.
and the US are being implicated with the bombings in Russia to start, a bit more Cold War love.
Very
Um,
topical. Very
yes.
topical.
Graviax meets with the Scroll Council, and we see that a lot of these people are heads of state, heads of religions, and heads of countries. And he wants to
Being taken
start,
over by the lizard people, Chris. I told you.
yep, and wants to start a new war. During the court, is it a court appearance, or is it just the UN or the NATO style appearancing?
I thought it was NATO, but yeah,
Yeah, the Americans are called in, and who does America send?
America.
They send Colonel James Rhodes, also known as
War
Captain America,
Machine.
Captain America's buddy, War Machine. Um,
Iron Man's buddy.
he,
Come on.
oh yes, Iron Man's buddy,
Yeah.
War Machine. Um,
Or as
he
I like to
goes.
think of it, they sent the person from that movie that they could afford to pay to be in this TV show.
So they're defending America. He then tells Fury that he's discharged from Shield, and is also blaming Fury for Hill's death.
It was all Fury's fault, which is the title of the episode.
Um, we see some more Sonya as she interrogates one of the scroll prisoners in a brutal
Absolute
way.
highlight. Absolute highlight for
Yeah,
me.
gold standard bit there.
No spoilers for the
Um,
whole 6 episodes, but absolute highlight of the whole show for me. Get me a maxi series ongoing. I don't care. Get me Sonya torturing people constantly, or just being Olivia Colman whilst being a bastard. Sign me up. I want more of that.
yes. Um, During the interrogation, it is revealed of Graviax's plans to have machines that make scrolls super strong.
Super Scrolls, which again lean into the comic books. Like
Yeah.
I do at this stage kind of go, well, it's well, I've been reading Fantastic Four back at the beginning, and the Super Scroll appears quite early doors. So it is for a concept. It is something that I don't dislike the idea of it coming into the Marvel or cinematic universe. Or we
Yeah.
still call it the MCU, don't we? Even though it's on TV,
Yeah.
I think it's all banned under that. Yeah.
Gaia does some more snooping, and finds out about other bits and pieces and tells Daddy. And we see Fury go home to meet his Skrull wife.
Dun dun dun.
And that is episode 2.
I guess going back to my Sonya from EastEnders, like cutting the doof 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 EastEnders reveal of Fury's wife being a Skrull. So yeah, how was he coming out of episode 2?
I, like you, wanted more of Olivia Colman, aka the Queen, because that's one of the last things I saw him was when the better half was watching The Crown. To going,
God, yeah, I forgot she was in the
full
Crown. Yeah.
full badass torturing fucker, chopping off fingers, but doing it all with a very, polite British manner.
And like there's an argument that says effectively someone said, Olivia Colman, we will pay you a lot of money to be Olivia Colman whilst doing some things that you probably don't do in your own life, but it just works. It works so well. And I was quite pleased to see her cast in this because I I'll watch pretty much anything with her in. I think she's fantastic. And I don't know. I kind of went, yes, please. Let's get her in the Marvel universe, and I think the Marvel universe is enhanced to have her in it. So
Yes,
yes, Disney, Walt, greenlight my Sonya 8 season
torture
long
porn.
Breaking Bad esque TV show, please.
Um, but yeah, the rest of it was this stank of filler. Um, we got the little bit in the beginning with the backstory of Gravax being there at that initial point when Fury makes his promise. We see that Fury has a Skrull wife, but very little really happens in this one.
So one of the things that become quite apparent, and we saw some reveals of it in episode 1, didn't we? Like when people were getting killed and then they turned scrully. And this isn't the maker of this TV show's fault. They were very much, I guess, tied into the character design as put forward in the Captain Marvel movie. And one thing that became very apparent with that elongated opening scene, and I'll come back to more of that elongated opening scene in a minute, but just how bad the MCU designer scrolls are. I look at him and I just go, oh, they look awful.
Mm.
They're like a kind of a little bit like the comic book ones, but with weird shine. It's like some bad paint job on an American car has been applied to Skrulls and gone, right, go out there, or let's channel our inner Twilight to make them a bit more glittery.
Yeah,
And yeah, I do, and I wouldn't damn a TV show on something in particular like that, but it made me find it a lot harder to engage. But that whole opening section where we get the meeting, which is I think supposed to be there to go, here you go everyone, here's the meat and potatoes. This is why Gravik is really got this beef. This is where kind of
yeah,
him and Gaia get together. This is how they know Nick Fury. This is how they tell us. And at the end of it, I'll be honest, I just went, you could have done that in 30 seconds much better than the amount of time you took to deliver it. And at the end of it, I didn't feel any more sympathetic towards the plight of the Skrulls, or again, feel like they were being evil. I just come out of it going, oh, now I realise why I didn't like Gravik in the first episode, because you're portraying him like a whiny little child who's stamping his feet. And to reinforce that, you've just shown me him as a grumpy, sullen, whiny little child who turns into this. And yeah, I don't know. It made me disconnect further with the concept and made me dislike the characters of Gravik and Gaia even further, but not in the way that I think I'm supposed to dislike Gravik because he's kind of the bad guy. Just in a,
yeah,
I would not go down the pub with either of these, so therefore I'm not really interested in what their agenda is, and it's not been portrayed well enough for me to buy into it.
yeah. And the Fury wife reveal bit as well. I'm like, it didn't add anything at, at this point of the story. Is it meant to be a oh Fury
Yeah,
had a
I, I
had a
think
life
I think it's
outside of
supposed to be.
Shield
Yeah, I think it's supposed to be. Do you know
in the
what
same
though?
way they did with Hawkeye and
Well, funny you should mention that because I was actually going to go straight into to that bit and say, partially, I think this could be because of my, certainly from the movie side of it, my lack of interest with Fury and my lack of interest with Samuel Jackson and by the way, I just want to clarify, Samuel L. Jackson back in the day loved his stuff. Seeing the same routine done over and over again for 25 years now, bored of it. Like, act rather than just play yourself over and over again. But I think that impacted this reveal. And you mentioned the Hawkeye one. I bloody love the Hawkeye one. I thought that was fantastic because you knew so little about the character, but also you knew so little, and I don't think there was a suggestion that he would go one way or the other. And it is leaning into somebody doing the ultimates. But when you got introduced to the fact that he was a family man, and they had a lot less time overall. Spoilers: the wife doesn't disappear. But I think they got that so right so quickly, so that then when we got to seeing them many movies later where the snap happened and things happened to the kids and stuff, it was gut punching, because I think they delivered that so well. And I think what they tried to do here was recreate that, but it just fell flat for me. Absolutely fell flat for me. And I think they tried to again layer on that scrully wife even flatter. I just went, I don't care. And if I did care, why? It's been for everything we've seen, he's been a shit husband because he's never at home.
Yeah.
Like, the whole kind of thing is that he's absolutely married to his espionage. Like, he'd never. I don't know. It just fell massively flat for me.
And the fact that he's been away on this fucking spaceship since the
go and see your wife, you dickbag.
Snap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why would I care about you having a wife if you didn't care about you having a wife? Yeah. It was odd for me. And again, I think where it misses out is, rather than making me go, I'm intrigued what happens next, I kind of go, a character that I wasn't already liking very much, you've just told me is even worse, because he's got a wife who he's just not stayed. Now, don't get me wrong, there's potential that in further episodes it could be, well, there's a reason why he didn't go and see his wife, because she's evil or whatever, all those sort of things. But I think at face value, what you've told me is going, he's gross.
He's a shit.
He stayed away from his wife all this time. So why would I care? Very, very poor indeed. The only other thing I really want to pick up from this episode is, and I know I said it earlier, and I was being a bit flippant, because it's not like Don Cheadle's a good actor. He's been in the other movies, but I'd said in episode 1, lots of like fingers in pies and DNA of other shows, other films and other projects. The Don Cheadle being the Biggie Marvel character that they brought in, it again just fell flat for me. It felt like, God knows what he got paid, and I hope he got paid handsomely for this, but it just felt like he was the cheapest option that he'd get in. Yeah. Or that he still had some dates on his contract that hadn't run out, and I don't know, it just stank of desperation to me. It stank of, no, honestly, come on in. There's a secret invasion. This is going to bleed out into the bigger characters that you like. Psst, here's one of the ones that's a medium level character. Yeah.
He's one of the background ones that has a bit
fake
of power.
Fake Iron Man. And then, as I say, like, I don't want that to be a slight to Don Cheadle as an actor, or how they've used war machines and other things, but I just think for the context of this, now bearing in mind, and we will get to this when we do the sort of like the second half of the series and the finale, and we talk about the comic book, I think it stank a little even bit more of desperation for me, because I went, okay, so here's where some of the similarities of the comic book is going to come in, and you're going to do it this way. Really weak for me.
So the last episode that we'll be doing in this week's episode show is into episode 3, where we see Gravelax again with the Skrull Council.
By the way, just to say, it is Gravik. Gravelax is a fish. And the only reason I say Gravelax is a fish, again, for non-UK viewers, you won't get this reference, but probably why you're saying Gravelax is there's a bloody awful TV advert, isn't there, where
whenever we're doing YouTube stuff for the React, I always get it.
We get that advert all the time about, because he's ordering a dinner at a posh restaurant and he doesn't know what it is, so he Googles Gravelax really fast and finds out it's a fish.
So yes,
we're not be waxing lyrical about a TV show, but adverts and English pop culture stuff. This is the episode for you.
yeah. So Gravix is there again with the Scroll Council and intends to bring his Super Scrolls powered by Super DNA. He
Super DNA.
also has infiltrated the Royal Navy and is about to start shooting off missiles from a UN warship at a UN aircraft.
Yep.
Uh, Talos and Gravax meet in a art museum, and we see that he plays some scroll mind games with everyone in the museum being scroll and turning
Yeah.
into Gravax and
It was
all
a
that
decent
fun.
a decent scene. I thought that, like, and I want to kind of pick up when there is a decent scene because I know I'm being a bit hard on it. These are kind of like those little elements where I went, yeah, do you know what? That was done well. That, and I think they'd actually given that bit away on a trailer at some point, but I did think that kind of reveal scene was smartly done. I think in that
Mm,
kind of espionage movie kind of way, I thought, yeah, okay. When you first started conceiving this show and you wrote down the first five things on a piece of paper that you thought would be really cool, this was one of those, and I thought they delivered it quite well.
yeah. He threatens to kill Gaia. Gaia is there sending information to Talius that only she would know because Gravix knows there's a mole
Yep.
and he's fishing it out. Um, Fury goes at Talius because how they've been infiltrating Earth, and he wants him to help stop Gravax with this UN attack reluctantly. They also get in contact with Sonya to find out who is in charge of the naval command. Fury and Tusk break into the naval commander's house where we see him threaten his kid, who is a gamer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Turns out that the naval agent is a scroll. Whilst this is going on, we see that Gaia has been killed for her betrayal as Talos and Fury manage to stop the missile launch just in time. And that is where we come to an end of episode 3.
Yeah, and the halfway point of the season, isn't it? Like it
Yep.
is ultimately six episodes. So I guess in movie parlance, this would be we've got you to this point, dun dun dun, and we're probably racing towards end game of the movie from this point onwards. So I guess like the story beats have been laid out there. I'll lay in first because I think it's probably a bit more interesting as to like where your mindset is going into
Mm.
4, 5, and 6. But there's some plus points to me for this episode. The scene in the museum I think is revealed quite well. And I think at concept, that idea of using the fact that scrolls can adopt the I was gonna say like the vision, like the appearance of anyone.
Yeah.
It is quite interesting, and it's quite interesting when they start to use that for turning the humans on humans, so
Yeah.
political powers and countries against each other. Um, but that's and Sonya's in this episode. But that's kind of where my plus points end, and even in those plus points, that story about the submarine, the fire, and the missile, I think conceptually is good. I think it's delivered so weakly. Um,
Mm.
and there's something around here where I really start to notice the pacing of the show. It is only 6 episodes, but that happens so fast. Like
Yeah.
the kind of idea of, oh, we're going to do this is introduced so very very quickly, But it's almost, so we start off with the idea that Gravik and the Scroll Council, the Scroll Rebels, whatever that we end up referring them to, are interested in potentially taking on Earth, or taking over Earth. You kind of have and we're going to do super scrolly things paralleling along with that. And then this kind of very fanciful, and how we're going to do that is we're going to almost start to make nations potentially war against each other by taking faux military action. And I think that could be a really key and really interesting story point if it wasn't told in about 20 minutes in a singular episode.
Yeah.
It's done and it's resolved very, very quickly. And again, I'm very much avoiding what happens in 4, 5, and 6. I will say there's kind of some similar concepts that are going to come back to things like this, but it felt like it was under delivered on for the amount of time they gave it. And unfortunately for me, it's delivered whilst having that one last extra strand, which is having Gravik on my screen, which is always a mistake, is what I'm finding at this point, and having that Guy is really working against them storyline, which has been there since issue 1, episode 1. But I'm really bored of it at this point. And also, you're going, and I know you get the reveal as you shot down of this almost like, haha, we knew, or haha, we figured it out. I lose faith in this as a product, because anyone knew within 22 seconds of her being on the screen that she was not for the cause, and
Yeah.
I don't buy into the fact that at any point she was trusted, and what the point of keeping her around was, other than they got a famous actress in to play her, and you could have that father-daughter link, whilst at the same time going, oh, will she, won't she, sort of, is she going to lean to her father, will she be a double agent? But there's nothing compelling or convincing in that for me.
No.
So yeah, I do, and I know you said like you kind of lead to the end where she gets shot. I don't buy it. I didn't buy it at the end of this episode. I didn't buy it on, oh, here we go, bloody hell, they've killed off one of their most famous actresses in it. I just went, bullshit, they'll be back in the next episode.
Yeah, it's that thing with this one. As you say, they rush through what could have been the main plot for a whole series. The whole, how do you set up an attack like that where you can infiltrate
Yeah.
one nation's royal navy to attack the UN. That doesn't need to be a 20-minute cluster. And then the
Yeah, if
way
you're
that
doing
the
espionage and
home invasion bit,
suspense, you
yeah,
need to build espionage and suspense, don't you? You can't just go, here's suspense right in front of you, bang, bang, bang,
here's the
gone.
plot.
Like,
There you
yeah,
go, done.
yeah, yeah,
And the home invasion bit was really bad.
yeah,
And when they shoot Gaia, I just didn't care, because at this point,
yeah,
again, like with Gravax and his, I have no reason to really hate him. I have no reason to care for Gaia, other
yeah,
than, oh, it's Talius's daughter.
yeah. Oh, do you know what? I think it's even less that. I think it's, oh, there's that woman that you know from other things.
Yeah,
There's that famous lady. I think they're trying
but
to
yeah,
cash in on that.
this episode, more than the others, is really, really rushed, and seems to be that sort of thing of, we had some ideas, let's just throw it out and carry on.
So like the you sort of said about the home invasion. I'm with you. I think that's done really weak. But I'm now 3 episodes in, and I said earlier about I was kind of hoping that Talos might be that thing that I could latch onto, and I think they are still kind of going a little bit of a conflicted idea. I think he is annoyed with Fury. He does want the best for the Scrolls, but at the same time, he's honourable and doesn't want to do that at the expense of Fury or the human race. But for him and Fury, they've just pretty much meandered around for 3 episodes. Like, they just are. And I know this often happens again in spy and espionage movies, but where you're kind of chasing the shadow of the bad guys. I don't feel like they're chasing the shadow of the bad guys. I think they're just randomly going to locations to have action scenes.
Yeah,
Whereas if you sort of stop for 2 minutes and you're going, it's quite clear at this point that Gravik's intentions are bad. They've got Gaia insinuated into it, and every now and again she drops him a bit of information that would be really handy. Why doesn't she just tell him where they are? And why
yeah,
doesn't Fury and Talos just rock up and take him out?
yeah,
And I know, like, that would. The answer is because we wanted to make a 6 episode TV show. But I think that's sometimes the problem you have of going, you can't do it when there's a really. And I'm not saying like killing Gravik or necessarily it's a smart idea to go into this place where there's a lot of hostile people. But that's probably better than letting them meander around and trying to solve problems at the last second that you know are going to come up because you've got this
yeah,
force insinuating yourself. And I think with the roadie sort of scene from episode 2 of saying you're not associated with us anymore, that's not enough because as much as Fury's been away, it's been well established in everything else in the MCU that if Fury comes a calling, the big heroes are just going to go, yeah,
the Avengers jump.
yeah, yeah. You know, they even mention it at one point. I can't remember which episode it is. I think it might actually be episode 1 where him and Talos are having a conversation. And I think, again, we're supposed to sort of buy into like how close they are because they can have these conversations. And he said, what present did you get for your midlife crisis? And he said, the Avengers.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, Fury's been portrayed, and very much in the comic books, but very much in the MCU as someone who has deep connections with all these. So when you do Winter Soldier and even a couple of bits where they try to sow distrust about Fury in that movie, he still has the backing of some very powerful people. And now I know in this point of the MCU, you're going. A lot of those Avengers aren't available, so like Cap isn't around anymore. Spoilers for all this stuff. Thor, Thor's off making bad movies at this point. Iron Man dead. Bigger spoiler. Black Widow dead. Another big spoiler. But he's
it's got
connected
Spider
to.
Man.
He's that's the thing. He's connected to so many things of going. If even if he didn't have the backing of the U.S. government, which they're kind of
Yeah,
trying to say he doesn't, he's picking up the phone to any one of those dudes or any of the other heroes that, let's be honest, he would know and
yeah,
going, bad dude over there, let's go.
yeah. Let's get this sorted.
Yeah. And yeah, I just don't buy it. They've not done a good enough job for me to say he's a man on his own with no one to turn to other than Sonya and Talos. Because
Yeah,
there's not enough there. He come down from a bloody massive space station. It's wafer thin, and
yeah,
it is already at this point for me 3 episodes in reeking of Marvel TV. I'm gonna say it's worse. I'm not saying this is the worst thing, but when Marvel TV is bad, it's reeking into that of just going, oh, we can sell this off of the fact that it's got Samuel Jackson, Emilia Clarke, Don Cheadle in it, and I feel like the writing is really poor at this point. But yeah, over to you. How are you feeling at the end of episode 3?
there's a reason I've only watched the first 3 episodes because when I watched this, the first 5 were on Disney, so I could have watched the first 5 episodes. That tells you enough. That was like, uh,
Yeah,
I'll leave this for a couple of days, and it's been a week. I could have finished it this week, and I still haven't because I'm just like, yeah, I'm. It's not grabbing me. It's not. It's not making me care. That's the biggest thing in this is
yeah,
there is no investment in anyone. And
yeah,
I don't mind Fury. You know, yes, Sam is doing Sam by numbers now without, dropping a motherfucker every so often.
I'd have taken it in this show.
yeah, and yeah, as you say, Amelia Clark as Gaia adds nothing. You could have just got anybody to do that character, how that the character's being portrayed, because there's a character that, as I said, when she gets shot, I don't care.
Yeah.
You've got a villain that I don't care. And you know, I like Talius, I like Sonya, but
More
both of
Sonya.
them
That's what I'm hearing.
are, are just feel like bit parts in
Yeah. Yeah.
in their own story. So
Yeah.
yeah,
So a small spoiler for 4, 5, and 6, but it's more of a feeling spoiler. So you know when you said earlier we're doing this because I said I was enjoying it, and that's why I was so surprised because I did not enjoy this from episode 1 and out, and I'd watched episode 4 when you said let's do this, and I hid from my face the absolute disappointment and disgust because I was going to stop this show at episode 4, but I thought, well, I better watch the other two now. I was
well,
quite worried. I'll be honest. I was quite worried. Like I say, worried. Opening my real wide to worried. But when we come on here, we're quite lucky, aren't we? Quite often we are picking comic books that there's a good chance we really like, and often we do. And there are a few times where there's been stuff we haven't liked, and certainly when we've done TV and movies, that I think there's been more stuff that we haven't liked. But normally, yeah, coming in to reading, uh, I come in with high hopes, and even if it's bad, I tend to have a lot to say about it. And I was quite worried about when I was walking home today before we sat down to record. I was like, do you know what? Chris is going to have to do a lot of heavy lifting for this because it's really bad. Now, as it turns out, and thank you very much for doing the episode recaps, because there was also a part of me that went, don't do the episode recaps because you will tell things that happen later. But as it turns out, I think it has driven like at least like a bit of venting of maybe the things that I wasn't liking about it, and also some of the things I was, and maybe I had more to say about those first 3 episodes than I thought. But yeah, that was a genuine concern for me of me going, you're going to talk about the episode, and at the end of it, I'm just going to go, I didn't like it. And to a large part because I don't remember much of it because it was just so
yeah.
that it didn't. But yeah. So yeah, it was. I was genuinely worried about it coming in. But
So next week we'll be back when I've watched episodes 4, 5, and
well,
6.
and who knows? As much as I was going to quit it after episode 4 to keep the suspense going, maybe I loved 5 and 6, and maybe it changed the whole season around for me, or the whole series rather than season, I guess.
And what I will also attempt to do is get the set read as well.
Yeah, I think I
Um,
think I should remember this, but I think it's 7 issues. I think the main story. Tons of spin-offs, but go for the Secret Invasion story if you're going to do it. The spin-offs will add stuff, but um, to a degree, it's very achievable without that.
yeah. So next week we will finish off the show and also have a little bit of a discussion about the comic and
Yes,
differences and all of that.
and it gets a bit of a
So
what we like more. What if
yeah,
if we liked that sort of thing. But yeah, I'll be very interested to one see how 4, 5, and 6 hit for you, and then how the comic book hits for you. And I will say in advance, because I do want to be fair after I've been quite mean, I think, tonight on the TV show, is when you do go into the comic book, bear in mind the comic book had 40 plus years of comic book publication history to play with, and if they wanted Thor in it, someone just had to draw Thor, not pay Chris Hemsworth millions of dollars to come into the show.
that is very true.
Yeah, yeah.
So as always, ring the bell, like, subscribe, and all the comments down there on
Why
what
to
you
do
think
that?
of
That's
the
that's
first
more
three.
maracas
Maracas.
than yeah. Ring the maracas.
Comments down there on what you think of the first three episodes. Um, we don't
Yeah,
normally mention this on here because it's normally done on the music stuff, but thank you for subscribing. We have hit over 900 subscribers.
We blew
A
him alive and all, didn't
massive,
we?
massive boost in the last couple of weeks.
One hell of a surge.
So, very appreciated. Join
We
us if you
love
don't
every
already.
single one of you.
Yes.
Chris
And
can name them all. In one episode, he'll name all 960 of them.
don't put so much pressure on me. I'll forget at least one.
Oh yeah,
I'm terrible with
forget
names.
more than one, I think. But yeah.
So, as always, thank you very much for watching. And until next week, and we finish off Secret Invasion, goodbye.